Welcome to the intro of this podcast. You are now past the intro.
Hi, I'm Queso. I make games.
I am Blarp. I do a lot of things.
I am Clippy. I should be doing more things with my life.
I'm Red, and I play games.
So, I hear the topic of the evening is hard seltzer.
Truly a good topic, truly.
That sounds like it's just the worst kind of alcohol because it's just seltzer plus alcohol.
It's
not that
mixer
bad.
without the It's mixer without the sugar.
Yeah, that sounds miserable.
Yeah,
It's not that bad.
and I suppose
I
have-
really want to
worse.
know who they source for their alcohol, because it's very inoffensive.
it sounds to me as pleasant as drinking like vanilla extract, just watered down.
See, that's how vanilla extract sounds better to me than
Oh god.
hard seltzer.
Well, don't knock it till you try it.
Okay, I'll go get a bottle of vanilla extract.
That was probably one of my favorite experiments as a kid that they just did in public. I went to the Museum of Science, and they're like, "Oh, sometimes things are deceiving. Look, vanilla. Doesn't it smell so great?" And then they just started handing out the wooden tongue tab things with a drop of vanilla. It's like, don't you all love vanilla cookies? And they had a box of vanilla cookies right next to it. It's like, here, have some vanilla. Oh, the lady who was running that stand knew exactly what she was doing.
It's literally never bothered me. Like, I get that it tastes different, but like I don't mind the taste of vanilla extract at all.
See,
I mean, it's just alcohol, isn't it?
Artificial vanilla extract is a very high concentration of alcohol. It's very harsh.
yeah, I was more of
It's mostly
expecting
the
that.
shock of expectation.
Isn't there just like bitter and just
Oh yeah, it's super bitter.
Yeah.
But it's a shock of expectation. Bitter is not a bad flavor, but like when you're expecting a vanilla sugar cookie, like from the gas station, and then you get vanilla extract, it's enough to surprise you. And a lot of
But when
people
you cook it
react
out,
that
the
way.
alcohol burns off, right? So that's,
Oh yeah, it mellows out once you dilute
Yeah.
it.
I mean,
Yeah,
most alcohol doesn't actually cook off. Like at most, like 60 to 70% will. But like
So-
in a lot of cooking types, the alcohol's usually still in there.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's just you're usually using only so much alcohol for
hmm
Yeah.
quite
Just
a
a
Yeah,
reasonable
you-
pour.
Don't need to worry about like, oh look, a few milligrams of alcohol spread amongst 5-10 people.
Speaking of alcohol and cooking, though, I could really go for some bananas Foster.
Ooh.
That sounds really good right now. I have 2 bananas downstairs that are starting to go. I could pour some alcohol on them.
Usually I end up just with banana bread. It's also delicious.
I feel like one of these days I have to try making a banana daiquiri.
What?
Yeah, it's a very common joke in a cartoon that I watch.
I see.
Making banana daiquiris.
On a totally unrelated topic, I've been getting back into Mordhau. God, have I missed some first-person melee combat. I think it's just I miss first-person games in general.
Mm.
Yeah, it does
Or
feel
you're
like
not developing a first-person game.
I am, and I play it more than any game developer should ever play their own game for fun. That's how starved I am for first-person games.
God, I am looking forward to Boundless just because I do feel very starved as well. It's just sort of like there's nothing that meets my needs for what an FPS should be.
Do you mean Boundary?
Yes.
For those not in the know, Boundary is a first-person shooter with 6 degrees of freedom movement, similar to Shattered Horizon, which is a game you've never heard of. Basically going for the 5v5 competitive shooter, somewhat objective-based, in space and on space stations. Yeah, I am very much looking forward to Boundary as well. Yeah,
What other new
Oh.
games are you guys looking forward to?
oh, I guess I'll go check my Steam wish list.
when KSP 2
Oh,
finally
yeah.
comes out, that'll be great.
KSP.
Deathloop looks like it might be interesting.
KSP has been like passed around oddly from
Yeah.
developers. So
Yeah,
who
the
knows?
vision is hard to achieve.
It's not a lot else on my list right now that I'm looking forward to. Yeah, I follow Chet Falzik, former writer for Valve, on Twitter, and he pointed out like even the Wikipedia article for first-person games have no notable examples in 2021. Like, it's nothing's coming out.
Hmm.
Shooters are in such a miserable place.
There's no improvement to the formula. I mean, what can you add? We've added superhero abilities, right? We've already made people superheroes. What's next?
Well, I think it's more of an issue of how far can you push mobility and push just sort of like higher difficulty mechanics, because when you increase the difficulty, then that makes it significantly less accessible. And since everybody's trying to make the most accessible thing possible, which is what Overwatch is, then you have to sacrifice a lot of your sort of like unique gameplay or any sort of game mechanics that set it apart from anything else.
Honestly, I'm a big believer that the FPS genre basically dead-ended itself. It picked a route going maybe as far back as Halo and Call of Duty, where it kind of went, this is how these games are going to play. They got super popular and everyone cloned them, and there's only so far that can get.
Hmm.
Whereas, there's a lot of, lot more space to explore, but those just haven't been branched out as far.
Well, all right then, Robert Frost. Take us down this road less traveled. What is a branch that we've ignored?
I think the, how do you make an arena shooter kind of thing into something bigger? Overwatch is probably the best recent example, and Overwatch, despite its many flaws, is probably the direction shooters can go if they want to get out of this rut. Before that, you have Team Fortress 2 from 2007. It took a decade for anyone to follow that up meaningfully. That's how you get.
So just to clarify, you're talking about like differences in like objectives in defining a win condition as opposed to.
I wouldn't even get that deep into it. I would just go. It's very holistic. The problems with shooters right now is you've got basically your super hardcore military style direction, and you've got not a lot else, and people complain when it's not their military style shooters.
I mean, people are gonna complain either way. It's just
Yeah,
what.
but when it comes to games, if you have enough people complaining, nobody's buying your game.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Public perception is huge.
Well, I guess it's time for a first ad read. Very, very good first topic.
Well, this podcast is not brought to you by my game Ember, which you should play. We are not sponsored.
But it is a good game. I will endorse it.
That's so weird. That sounds so weird coming from the lead developer. You should play this amazing game that I made that's not sponsoring this
That's
message.
fucked.
No, I
Correct.
think it's better this way.
Oh, it definitely is. Definitely this way.
That way, we have received no money to endorse it.
What if I send you $1?
I'll consider it payment for other work I've done.
No, I already sent you a 20 for that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, so the FPS genre. What do people want to see? What do you guys want to see in another good shooter?
For me personally, it comes down to sort of movement mechanics and, being able to actually give players more utility. It's just sort of what I feel like is with the military side, you're going slower and slower because, Arma and Squad are walking simulators. And then on the other hand, you have Overwatch, which still also just feels slow.
Yeah.
In comparison to, in the past when you had very high movement speed and sort of more movement mechanics, I guess, like air strafing.
I think I just want another Heroes and Generals game type of game. Like it was fun, didn't take itself too seriously. And it was just I don't know, it was fun.
I like games where you have to make trade-offs, where you have to make conscious choices between A or B. Um, I think the milsim falls into this trap because it's one life. When it's one life, there's a huge punishment for going down. So the necessary trade-off is it's all going to be inclined towards survival. You'd rather engage and disengage than overcommit.
Kind of like the kind of battle royale problem, because
Okay.
that's another great shooter that's out right now. Apex. Apex has good movement. It's got high time to kill, but by nature of being a battle royale, you have to play defensively, and they do so much. So much of the best game design in that is rewarding you for playing the game. Going out, exploring things, and killing other teams is how you get the stuff you need to win the game. But even then, it's still fighting against itself as a game where one team wins by surviving the longest, and you survive by not getting shot.
Yeah, it's
Also-
difficult because it's hard to reward fortification, right? Fortnite tries to do this with its building mechanic, but building is so clunky that it becomes a very high, becomes either incredibly messy or it's just too much of a big brain mechanical thing to do.
I feel like my problem with VR is that it's too RNG based. Just because of the nature of the game mode. Like I prefer just having more structured gameplay rather than base it all on RNG.
Yeah. I mean, one of the biggest issues that I've always had, which is especially true with a battle royale game, is this if you're playing socially, if you have one person go down and everyone else is just going fine, they're sitting around on their hands for up to like 20 minutes sometimes. Which
Yeah,
The
I
is
was-
very
The
unfortunate.
Gulag was a nice innovation in that direction, I guess.
Yeah.
In,
I was
you
playing.
Blackout.
War,
I forgot it's Warzone, Warface.
Warzone. Warface is a different game. I think it's Warface.
They've used every adjective imaginable.
War Mace.
Yeah.
That's
War
the next
Mace.
one.
No, that's Mordhau.
More.
Fair enough.
Well, I mean, but that's one of the things that I liked about Counter-Strike a lot. Is my favorite thing about that game is that the rounds are pretty consumable. I mean, overall, winning a match takes quite a bit of time, but like the round-to-round chunk decisions can only drag you back so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, like
That's fair.
maximum it's like what, 3 rounds? If you're
No.
like really bad in economy.
That's not even true because there are eco strats, right? So like you could just stack eco and just choose to throw the round to do damage, and that's like a viable comeback strategy to claw. the
My
difference in
CS team
economy.
tends to win ego rounds too.
Yeah, that's true.
We just
Yeah,
rush in like madmen, and pistols are
Yeah.
good while moving.
Oh yeah, flying the corner is amazing, especially when you're T side with Tech 9s back in the heyday of Tech 9. Oh boy, oh boy, that was a lot of tunk. Let me tell you.
Yeah,
Those were some good
downtime. Downtime's another thing battle royales do really well, though. At least in theory, is if you think of downtime as being time you're not playing, quote unquote, then battle royales are great because you die, you find a new match, and you've got another 15 minutes of uninterrupted gameplay. Even though in that game you might be hiding for 50% of it.
Or like looking for guns for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's like what's pushed me away from Battle Royale is just hopping in, spending 10 minutes looking for a gun, and just because I didn't know where to land, I just search and search and search and don't find anything, and then
But
oh
that's a
look,
complaint that
somebody
you
just
always
comes
have.
by and shoots me and I'm
That's the complaint you always have. You do not like learning map knowledge.
This is
Mhm.
true.
Like you hate Counter-Strike because
I
every single
have-
time there's a map, you're like, what's the position? What's the meta? Where am I standing? A grenade? What's that? Where did that come from?
I have a game recommendation for you then. Due Process.
Oh boy.
It's a 5v5 competitive shooter, tactical breach and clear style. So one team on offense, one team on defense. Not random maps, but semi-procedural generated maps. They add about 20 maps a week, so you can never learn all the maps.
Jesus.
That sounds right up my alley.
Yeah, I
was
love
out
the
last
hell
year.
out of Due Process. It's in early access currently. They've been in development for, I don't know. I think, did you play it at PAX with me when it was back boxy stickmen?
Possibly. That I feel like I
Oh, this is
remember
some
you
nice
talking
art.
to the devs.
Yeah. They've been
This
in
is-
development for a long time. Right now, they've got like PS2 style looking graphics. It's a great art direction. I love the look of it.
It's like a very pixely Borderlands, but no cell shading.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
3D but pixely is a good way to
Yeah.
put it. Yeah, and so you can't learn the maps ever. You have to make you get about a minute at the start to make a tactical plan. And, if your plan's good and you execute on it well, you win. On defense, if you, manage to disrupt their plan, throw a Molotov into their line of fire, do stuff like that, you can time them out, get some picks, get some kills.
I wonder how this compares to R6.
oh.
Because that's one of the things I don't like about R6 is there are so many angles that you just have to
Oh.
kind of adopt. You really have to adopt the rotate strategy. If you're not rotating and moving, you're just going to get caught out. If you're not constantly clearing,
Yeah,
That's one of the main things I love about Siege is how dynamic it is. Like,
so the thing about
Every-
go on.
yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay, the thing about Due Process is it's basically on offense, you're at a huge advantage, weapons wise, health wise. Those are the two major ones. And on defense, you've got the advantage of having all the space in the world to poke and fall back and play angles. The maps are pretty simple, so you're never watching more than 3 angles on offense. But if you're not watching the right one, you're going to get poked, you're going to take a ton of damage, and you might even get killed. If you have team for backup, you'll get that as trades, and you want to be trading and pushing forward on offense.
this sounds like something where you really need to be in voice comms with all 5.
Oh, absolutely. If you're
Because
not...
this sounds like a game where defense is just bounding. The whole time you're just bounding from one thing to the next.
Yeah. So it feels way more asymmetric than even, CS and Siege.
All right, well, I'm down to buy into this if Blarp is, and we can make this a stream.
Yeah, I'm sure we can I'll pick that up at some point.
We'll have to look at a server pop.
I never have issues finding matches. It's not like super high population right now, but it's got a fairly consistent and active user base.
I just don't want us to sit in a League of Legends 5Q. Hey, let's start playing some World of Warcraft because that's how long it'll take for us.
Yeah,
to
casual, never more than 2 or 3 minutes to find a match.
Yeah, that's always good.
Hey, that's better than Destiny for me. Boy, I don't know why, but Destiny hates queuing me.
Yeah, and still in
you
early
have-
access, so still getting like 2 patches a week.
Yeah, that's good.
That's not a problem. Like I think the biggest thing about FPS is like a really strong, well-determined game in terms of mechanics. We figured out most mechanics for it already. We figured out how to make aiming feel good for the shooter and not terrible for the person who's getting hit. Movement feels like it's in a pretty stable place. I think really what it comes down to is how do you reflect decision making inside the game? How do you reward certain risks? How do you punish bad behaviors? And how do you do this in a way that doesn't feel like somebody's just cheating?
Yeah.
For sure. High time to kill. More games need high time to kill.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it.
Oh, I don't know if I agree with that, but
I don't know.
I think I definitely don't like bullet sinks like Destiny. I think that is the worst aspect of those games. Is the grinding is understandable if you're doing it with friends. It's like manageable.
no, I think
I think that's the big difference between PvP and PvE.
yeah.
Oh, even then, PvE should not be high time to kill.
No,
PvE should be staged out. If you're doing a boss fight, it shouldn't just be, you're hard gated by amount of damage. You should be gated by a mechanic of some sort.
hey, let's
absolutely
be
agree.
Payday and just so many people at once.
Yep.
Yeah.
Payday's fun though. I love Payday.
Jumping around a little, I've been playing for the first time Risk of Rain 2. That
Ooh,
is
I
a
heard-
game.
I heard
That
good
is-
things about it. I think.
It's both very fun and very frustrating for a lot of the reasons we've been talking about.
But it's a roguelite, I think.
It
That's how
is.
it's categorized.
And it's very fun because you get, you unlock heroes pretty regularly. They've got, good abilities, a mix of movement, combat, etc. They work pretty uniquely, and so that's all very good. The thing I hate about it is enemy design, damage, and dying. Enemies can be very bullet spongy. They often don't clearly communicate how they're attacking, where they're attacking, how dangerous they are. Very bullet spongy, and when you die, you're pretty much stuck dead until your teammates find the end of the level, do a boss fight, and teleport to the next area. There was a point today I died early in one, and then I was underpowered because I didn't pick up all the items you get in the level. Died early in the next one. I was like, okay, have fun. I'm jumping out here
Yeah.
because dying.
But that
sucks in
isn't that just the challenge of procedurally generating anything? It's very difficult to telegraph some of these things to the players in a consistent manner.
Yes,
I know in Path of Exile we get around it with our classification systems. So we have modifiers that are like well known, well established, but it's also a very old game with like tons and tons of modifiers just built up over 5 years of dev time. So I know the way they get around it is just with a lot of in-game knowledge.
Yeah, and there's definitely part of it that that is roguelikes, and they're doing a multiplayer roguelike, which is a little bit unusual. And so,
I mean, appreciate the effort, I guess.
because I used to not like roguelikes, and I bounced off Hades pretty hard after 9 hours because I completed a run of Hades. I got to the end, and then my next one through I almost did, and then I died, and I was like, I'm not feeling this anymore. It's not I'm not feeling the variety. I'm not feeling the creativity.
Variety
yeah.
is a hard one.
And then I went and played Noida, and I have 65 hours in Noida. And Noida is a much more traditional roguelike. But its systems multiply really well, and it is abusively difficult. Like, you can pick up items in that game that the moment you use them, you die instantly.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it just comes down to, with any roguelike, is how good is your generation at actually, facilitating the gameplay, and essentially it is map design to some degree, and you need to adjust it.
Yeah.
Because
I don't know
map
if that's
design
true
is
for
what
Noida.
can make or break a lot of games.
I feel like most Noida maps are basically the same thing, just colored differently.
They're relatively similar. There's
Like
biome.
shape-wise, yeah.
Yeah, there's
I guess they get away
biome-
with it because it's systems interaction. So it'll be ice, which interacts differently with your spells, and fire, which will interact differently with your spells.
Yeah, so the layout's the layout, I guess, is the same, and then the actual pathing in each biome is different. That's the random bit.
Yeah, and
But there's so much else on top of that with spells that can change the world around you and change how you interact with enemies completely.
Yeah, so they're limiting certain elements to make sure that they have the right control over it.
Oh, this makes me want to ask if you like Path of Exile, but I feel like the answer is going to be no.
I don't believe I've played Path of Exile.
I
have
played it for
have
like
fun in post with that
a day.
audio. Oh my god, Path.
I played it for
let
like
me
a
tell
day
you.
and I hated it.
Oh yeah,
Let
I
me
have no
tell
interest
you.
in it. Action RPG.
No, it's so good. Okay. All right.
I don't like RPGs.
Well,
Just
I'm
as
not going
a
to try to convince you because I don't think that's. I think that's a little boring to talk about on the podcast. I will
it's
say
a
that
wide
you can-
genre, and I see the appeal, but so much of what people like out of RPG design, I hate as game design.
What I like about Path of Exile is exactly what you're liking about Noida, and what interests me about Noida is that you can. There is so much build diversity, and the systems that they have built out for it is very, very substantial.
Would recommend Noida highly. You will die. I think I've died about 350 times, and I've completed the game, I think, twice.
Oh, that's the best. That's how you know it's a good game.
Yeah. I feel like RPGs are having a resurgence.
Yeah, everybody
Like-
wants to feel like a superhero.
Yeah,
I think it's because Genshin was the main standout from the past year that got like everyone interested. I think.
Genshin had good story. Well, maybe not good story, but they invested heavily in story. So Genshin felt good because they put a lot of money and effort into the art and into character development, not necessarily game design, because all the characters play like shit. I don't like the way the characters feel. I don't like the way elemental stuff works. I don't like the way they chain combos. I think it's a very, very rudimentary system that they implemented, and it just doesn't feel
Well,
polished.
it's meant for like young. It's meant for a younger audience, right? So I get why it's that
If
rudimentary.
it's meant for a younger audience, then so here's the biggest like why. If you look at YouTube and you try to look at Genshin explanations, everybody who's doing DPM breakdowns, most of them have PhDs. Those are the kinds of people that you need to have almost that level of knowledge to be able to do the math calculations, because the way they've got the system set up is very not straightforward.
Speaking of Genshin and RPGs, I think the closest game to a traditional RPG that I've ever really enjoyed is probably Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild, in my opinion, takes RPG elements for the most part and does what I want RPGs to do.
Which is what?
Make good action, moment-to-moment gameplay and exploration.
Mm.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what I'm usually asking for, and
Pers-
RPGs don't deliver.
Personally, I think if it wasn't called Zelda, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, if it was just Breath of the Wild and you didn't have Link and Zelda and Ganon as, the names of the characters, people would call it an RPG. 100%.
I might have played it. I don't know. That's still up in the air.
I think you should, because you've been very much looking for things to play.
I
And the game handles pretty well, and from what I've seen about the combat mechanics, it's pretty smooth. It
yeah.
doesn't feel janky, doesn't feel clanky. The time pause is a very interesting mechanic where momentum doesn't work the way it should. But I think that adds some of the fun to it.
Yeah, it's a game that absolutely values fun.
Yeah, interestingly, I try to target games that I'll sink about 20 hours into, and that's about it before I move on to the next thing.
Yeah, you could do Breath of the Wild in 20 hours and have a pretty satisfying experience.
Yeah, just make sure you don't run straight to the boss, though. That would
Yeah, basically you'll end up doing a little bit of exploring, do the 4 main bosses and the final boss at about 20 hours.
That's not too bad.
Yeah, and the game makes exploring not feel total BS, because it does reward you for doing it. You get stuff out of it, but it's so intrinsically satisfying because a lot of it is environmental, level design. It's like, hey, this thing looks weird and out of place, and ooh, this is an interesting looking mountain peak. and you go and explore them, and you get rewarded from them, but it's fun to do on its own.
I just hate how your tools and weapons break after a certain time.
Yeah, weapon degradation is annoying.
I just think it's a
didn't hate
stupid
it.
mechanic in like casual games. Because
It
like
did make me explore the tools they gave me, though.
I guess, but like I'd rather not worry about it and
Yeah,
just play.
but this is like the same people who like playing with cheat codes on. Not to say that you're a dirty cheat code entering player, but I think it's not a bad mechanic because it does force you to get out of your comfort zone. I think games need to have that kind of push.
I think
don't
it's
like
a
games
decent
that you-
mechanic with really. It's either always going to be bad or you need to put so much flavor on it to make it not feel frustrating
Yeah.
that it's hard
Yeah.
to pull off well.
Well, I would never call it frustrating so much as annoying in a lot of games, just because it's like, okay, I have all these resources, they're too plentiful. I can just remake it whenever, and it's not an issue. It's just I have to take the time to do it, and it seems pointless in those circumstances.
Yeah, the big plus on Breath of the Wild system is a lot of their weapons are very varied and unique. At least in how you're going to deal with an enemy with certain types of weapons available to you.
Hmm.
So when one blows up, it's like, ooh, now I guess I have to use this in a slightly different way. So, other FPSs we've enjoyed in the past 15 years.
Oh god.
Counter Strike. Oh god, Counter Strike is so good. So good.
Yeah, You can't go wrong with Counter Strike.
Well,
Counter Strike had just enough of a mix of needing to know map knowledge and like fairly balanced weapon design.
Mm.
I like how everything was a deliberate choice. You can't just like click buy something. You always had to consider something, and decisions almost always mattered.
What if you just buy a P90, though? Then you just win. It's the best gun.
P90 Rush B?
P90
I mean,
Rush B.
Strat Roulette is also quite fun.
I'm out here looking my hours played graph on Steam.
Oh,
Guns
boy.
of Icarus Online, another Muse Games title, not sponsored. Well, also, I worked on that on the very tail end of that game. But I played a ton of it in high school. And
I wish we played that a little. I wish I played that a little bit more. Guns of Icarus.
Yeah, it's a game that definitely rewarded investment. It had way too high a barrier of entry.
Yes.
yeah, that's fair.
It's how I felt about Tribes Ascend. On face, it looks like such
I
a
love
cool
Tribes.
game.
Yeah.
It looked so cool, but just like I couldn't get the movement, and I was always a drag.
High Res definitely murdered that game. It could have been. It could
How
have
many
lived
hours?
a long
How many
time.
hours do you have in CS?
In CS?
Oof.
981.
Oh my
CS:GO.
god!
Go?
Yeah, CS:GO.
F 1300 hours.
13. How much of that's menu time? I really want to know. I don't believe that's all real play time.
I don't think I don't
Probably
think
at
it's
most
100.
20%.
Yeah.
No, I believe your number. I'm sitting at 709, and we're roughly the same age. Although I got into CS a little bit late, but I believe your number.
My
But
highest
Redbird,
played
oh my
game.
god, 1300. Jesus.
I have 1,400 hours of Dota too.
I don't really
Well, that's
idle
all
that
menu
much
time,
in
right?
CS:GO.
Dota's a game that you play from the menu.
A
I heard
lot
they
of
have
it is menu time.
I heard there is a great menu update that lets you see it in VR now, so you can spend even more time in the menu.
Oh, good.
You can watch games from VR. I've never tried it though.
I remember they made a big deal about how they're making it VR compatible with the what it was the Source 2 upgrade that they did.
I think the majority of my time in CS:GO is at least logged on Steam is from that time in high school that my account got stolen. Someone stole my
Nice.
account, and the only thing they played was CS:GO.
It's a good game. It's a good
It's
game.
good game. Good game.
Yeah, I have about 50 hours of Tribes Ascend on Steam, but I played it before they added Steam launcher
Seems to-
support.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
probably it's something more like 150 of Tribes Ascend.
For me, Tribes was pretty easy to pick up. I was sort of near the top of the leaderboard in general, basically like by like a third game.
Yeah.
It's very like the skiing wasn't essential, but it definitely, if you got good at it, it definitely helped a lot. But the fact is that most of the gunplay was projectile rather than hit scan, which I think really ups the difficulty for a lot of people.
Also, a game with very high time to kill.
Yes.
I think CS:GO is my biggest exception for high time to kill. And even
Well, it's because the
CS:GO
rounds
is
are so short. It's because the
Yeah.
rounds are short, right? Because you really just want to crunch
Yeah.
through them.
And even
If you wanna
CS:GO
make
has
it-
high time to kill compared to a lot of like tactical shooters. Like, sure, people are really good at getting, 2 headshots off of a M4 round. But that's only because it's, the skill ceiling's insane.
Well,
Back-
the engagements are fast, and that kind of
It's
makes
very
up for
fast
it.
contact. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's because of the I'd argue it's because of the asymmetry in information. So T side will inherently want to play fast contact, right? So the most successful strat will be fast contact explosion, right? So
Yep.
you creep one side, you take the 5v3, and of course they have the advantage of being in the defensive so they can bound back, but you've got numbers and you've got weapons advantage. So you really want to try to push it aggressively. So it's a very explosive retake.
And it's
Yeah,
all
and the
about using your
engagement.
tools too. Like I've seen like lower skill teams win just because they use their utility, and the other team doesn't.
Yeah, and even in CS:GO, although personal like health pools are not super high, engagements can last a really long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's about denial. It's about denial. So you use it to deny vision, to deny information, keep them guessing on angles, and that forces them to take it slow.
Which is a lot more engagement than hiding and hoping you don't get found in a, battle royale.
Yeah.
So even if you're not, taking fire and giving fire, the time to kill in an engagement is high.
Yeah, Jesus, yeah. Yeah, I've got about 700 hours in CSGO, 700 hours in Path of Exile, and 500 hours in PlanetSide 2.
I have 762 hours of Team Fortress 2.
Making me feel like I'm not even a gamer.
That's how I'm feeling. This guy's outclassed me in Counter-Strike. I feel bad. That's like my game. That's the game I like.
What's your rank in CS:GO?
Oh Jesus! I
What was
don't
your highest
remember
ever
what my
rank?
highest ever rank was. I think it was it was the double AKs, whichever one that one.
Jesus.
I've never been anywhere near that high.
Yeah, I've
so-
never. I think
That
I
was the
was.
highest I ever got, but I kind of got carried because I was playing with LEMs all the time,
Well, that was the.
so I
old
wasn't
rank
doing
system, right?
amazing. But like, I don't know. But I also made the jump over to playing ESCA and playing. I was a C rank ESCA player. Every time they loaded up the score screen, they're like, "See, that's a rank. What are you doing here?" I'm like, "It's okay. I queued with somebody. They'll carry."
They'll carry.
The highest hour game that I have on Steam right now is still Payday 2 at 157 hours.
Ooh.
That's got to be a lot of screen time. What the hell?
For
did
me,
not play
Payday,
that.
I have 807.
I'm down here looking at my list, and I just saw Shattered Horizon again, a game none of you have ever heard of. But God, do I miss that game?
I think the game I've been putting most hours into recently is World of Warships.
Yeah.
It's
There's
just,
just a large grind to it, unfortunately.
oh yeah, but it's just like a fun casual game while in class, you know.
That's
I can like
definitely-
no brain the game while still paying attention. I don't know. It's fun.
Never got into World of Warships. Did play a bit of War Thunder.
Oh
War Thunder
god,
is much more arcadey.
the War Thunder grind is so much worse.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it's way-
that's
So
why I
So much worse.
stopped playing it, because I hate grinding games.
Yeah. World of Warships is fun up until about tier 8. After tier 8, the grind hits you very, very hard, and you have to start using your flags and stuff if you want to keep your progression pace. But people don't like top tier anyway, because being under tier dragged into top tier is terrifying.
I feel like the sweet spot is like tier 7.
Tier 7 matchmaking right now is 100% the sweet spot. It's very, very good.
It does feel good that flight games seem to be making some amount of resurgence. There's like
Yeah.
a lot of players in the space exploration genre. There was Star Wars Squadrons, which had a pretty big launch. Microsoft Flight Simulator is doing
Oh,
insanely
yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Flight is in right now, which I am super happy about.
I think it's also due to research and popularity of like space exploration, with like SpaceX and NASA doing cool shit.
Yeah,
You know?
no,
But
People-
also, computers can actually like handle these things much better now. And
Yeah.
it's not like as gimmicky.
Plus,
It's a lot more realistic looking now.
again,
That-
to sort of bring up accessibility, I mean, it doesn't require reaction times. It's more about just sort of like, thinking about, hey, I want to go this place and executing. That can be a
Yeah.
big deal for a lot of people.
yeah, I really
to
want.
get back to World of Warcraft.
I want some more PvP in space.
I want real PvP in space, man. I want to be able to decouple my engines, rotate 180, and just fire backwards. That's
Have
all
you
I
heard of
want.
this game called Star Citizen?
Yep.
Oh, I think Blarp and I actually got in early enough that we have permanent insurance on our.
I also
outdoors.
do.
We have,
No,
yeah, we
I
have
don't think
permanent-
I don't think we did, because I
Were
thought that was
were we
for
like
the
a
kick.
month late on that?
No, I'm pretty sure that was only for the Kickstarter.
Oh.
I think we were at the timing where it was like a month. I think we were just a month late for it. I don't think it was a Kickstarter thing.
I am
Because they were playing with the insurance concept afterwards.
Yeah, they gave permanent. I think they gave permanent insurance to people after a certain cutoff. But my citizen number is 67,168. I was on the original Kickstarter. This is coming off a piece of plastic that lives in my wallet permanently.
Oh my god. You should laminate that.
Backed in 2012 on November 18th.
It's been in development almost as long as Duke Nukem Forever.
Yeah. It's because they keep moving the goddamn goalpost. Although I say that, but the game is functionally complete pretty much right now. The economy is just not there yet.
Yeah, I honestly think they're not super far off from having a product that will be fun to play. They have a product that works right now for the most part.
Yeah.
I think
There's
when
just
they
no
decide
reward.
to shift into we need to go and make this fun and give things for people to do.
Is DayZ still in early access? I'm just wondering.
I would imagine yes. I don't know. There's like 3 versions of Daisies, and I've lost track.
So, one game that you guys probably haven't really heard of was Monday Night Combat.
I played Monday Night Combat for a
I-
solid 2 hours.
I think that game was way ahead of its time.
Extremely ahead of its time.
Like, I feel like if they had come out with that game probably like 3 or 4 years ago, rather than, what was that, like 2009?
2011 was the release date, it says on Steam. But I'm
Yeah.
guessing it was an EA before that.
EA didn't exist yet.
Well, yeah.
Oh, then, well, the Steam release date is 2011.
Yeah.
Monday
well,
Night Combat was an FPS MOBA.
Yeah. And it did an excellent job of it too. It's just,
Nobody knew what creeps were. Nobody knew what all this nonsense was.
yeah.
Nobody knew the point of it.
I had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, and it definitely had a fan base.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it was only a few people at that time.
Uber Entertainment. Let's see on Steam.
They
had one
folded.
game, Monday Night Combat. Yep. Didn't they make a sequel though?
They made Super Monday Night Combat in an attempt to revive it, and they changed up the gameplay a little bit. I don't think that the format was quite as strong for that one. I don't remember
it's
what
not
they
on
changed.
Steam anymore.
Yeah. Well, Uber Entertainment completely folded, and I believe Super Monday Night Combat had to get pulled because of GDPR.
They got pulled due to GDPR?
Yes. Just
Wow.
like
it's
many.
cheaper than fixing your stuff.
Yeah, GDPR
Okay, that
killed
makes
a
sense.
lot of things.
F.
All right, there's the last
You have to
topic
be
of
able
the
to
night.
delete you have to be able to access and delete all your data.
GDPR, good in theory, poorly executed.
I feel like that's like a lot of things like EU does, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
you're just talking about government regulations in general. Is all government regulations are good in theory, but the devil is always in the details. It is almost
'Cause-
impossible to execute a vision perfectly.
Wasn't
There
it
will
the
always
same
be a
thing with the
problem.
like right to repair like law that came out recently too?
No,
Like-
that is a completely different story. The right to repair is with that you have lobbyists claiming
special
that
interest.
it has the issue of that it's like good in theory but incorrect, like it's not going to be effective, but
Yeah, they
That
argued a
was-
lot of very strange accessibility issues.
yeah.
Like, you can't have right to repair because all of a sudden your stalker ex-boyfriend will hack into your car because now he knows how it works. As if he couldn't already just glue a cheap burner onto your phone, onto your car, and know where you are.
Classic
Mm.
security through obscurity coming up again.
Yep.
Yeah, no. Anyone can rip apart your piece of software and your piece of code and figure out how it works. The only way to make it secure is by making it public how it works. And have that public knowledge
Break it,
be
fix it, break it,
obviously
fix it.
good.
yeah.
Yeah, this is why the best way to have security is to do things like have security bounties that you actually pay out.
hmm
Because then you have lots of people just going, hey, I'm going to try to figure this out. And the best part about it, you only pay people for the work that's actually fruitful. You have lots of people working for you that you don't pay a cent for.
Which is a whole different issue. But
Hey,
Listen, security researchers know what they're getting into. This is not security research is not a well-paid industry. It's very much gold mining.
well, yeah.
Smart gold mining, where you have to know something, but
Hey, if you actually know something and you can do it right, it is lucrative. And there's a
But
reason
really,
why.
you should be paying people internally and then have bounties on top of that.
Yeah. And I mean, that's why the bounties are so large, is so that, like, even if you're an individual, you can,
Yeah.
earn your keep just by getting one bounty done every so many months. And you're going to get by just fine.
and now with the layers of complexity, now that exploits are not just at the software level, but at the hardware level, integration level, there's so many places to exploit that there's just more than enough holes for you to find. But yeah.
Yeah.
I'd rather live in a world where GDPR can exist, even if it's a pain. Because people need to have the ability to deal with the corporate interests that run our lives in the modern era.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wish that the pop-ups on websites weren't so horribly done.
Yeah. Definitely right about that.
Then
I think
again,
my favorite anecdote about that is the guy who's developing the language in the first place. He says there's a really easy solution. It's one line of code that changes the way that pops up function, but nobody does it. It's a single line, but nobody teaches it because pop-ups are more annoying and you want it to be annoying. So they intentionally ignored the built-in feature to make it less annoying.
What feature would that be?
There's a way to Windows it correctly so it doesn't like hijack sections of your screen. So you're supposed to be able to container pop-ups in a meaningful way. But nobody who maintains websites ever tries to container the ads. They just let the ads hijack however they can.
Yep.
But it's like very, very simple. There's a pre-built container to try to defeat hijacking. And apparently it's fairly effective. But because nobody uses it, nobody cares. Nobody's tried to defeat it yet.
welcome to Web Development 101, where nobody
Oh, yeah.
is really knowledgeable of actual like security or programming, and they just throw things together because JavaScript works no matter what you do.
Yeah.
Does
Oh,
it though?
God.
Does JavaScript work?
No.
That I'm always scared by people that write primarily in JavaScript because they've just
What do you
learned
mean?
their ways around every problem.
Queso, what do you mean? You walk into a grocery store all the time. Those automatic sliding doors, that's JavaScript.
Don't make me cry.
Oh, you don't know this? That's JavaScript. Most of the opening, like automatic detection sliding doors, most automation that's like consumer grade is JavaScript.
Gee, I wonder why it doesn't work so good.
It's like my favorite thing about drones being more accessible to like little kids, like the really cheap FPV drones, the ones that like the kids will use to fly around the neighborhood and try to like take peeping tom photos. Those things are in unsecure floating PHP web servers.
Oh no.
Where the default
PHP is
password
even worse.
where the default password is probably still admin. So not only when you see one of these can you just hijack it, you can just sink it to the ground without doing anything other than a really standard PHP attack. You just log in. You just log in. You just log in and delete the GPS coordinates, and the thing will land itself immediately. It's amazing.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite Black Hat talks. Oh my god. So, that guy must have been so happy when he found out that exploit.
God. I think my favorite DEF CON talk has to be Denial of Service Dog.
Oh,
It was a glorious sort of example of, hey, let's just do a mobile denial of service thing, throw it on just throw it on a Raspberry Pi, toss it into the vest of a dog with a vest that says denial of service, and then that dog is allowed anywhere.
Eat up, dog.
oh dear lord. Terrifying.
Yeah. It's a service dog, literally.
No, it's a denial of service dog. You can even tell people it's a denial of service dog, not a service dog, and they'll just go, okay, yeah, you can come into this restaurant.
Oh,
Why
no.
is our Wi-Fi down? What's happening to our point of sale?
It's
Yeah,
good that Man in the Middle has gotten harder to do, but it's still very much an easy thing to just, if you want to take out everybody's internet service, it's just so easy.
Yeah.
Not mine.
It's the same.
I'm
It's like, oh god.
hardwired.
Do you remember Riskin frickin' pulling out the Ethernet cable in the library and plugging it back into the goddamn switch?
What?
He took down our high school because he was trying to like, this was like in the morning, like you get to the school and everybody's in the school bus, getting off the school bus, people are running to the library to print things out, and Ritskin, this kid,
Probably
that
don't
we
use
know.
the name.
Ritskin, that's a very generic Russian last name.
Yeah.
That's like saying Steve. I'll say Steve. Steve Bojankin Ritskin just rushes off to the library. He doesn't have anything to print. He just wants to, because it's the senior prank day is coming up and they want to hack into the computers to do a thing, is trying to break the admin password because somebody else did it earlier that year. And he's just pulling wires and putting things where they don't belong. And he took out half of the school for the morning.
Nice.
Our IT lady was very upset with him. I don't ever think I've ever seen her angry. She was angry that day.
My high school.
Oh man.
My high school, I learned the Wi-Fi password, which students were not allowed to have, ever, because MacBooks have no way to hide that data from any user, at least at the time. So it was just publicly available on the older MacBooks.
What do you mean? Chrome saves passwords in plain text? Why would they do that?
I worked as the IT intern for my school for like 2 years.
All stuff that I highly recommend schools don't do. Don't.
I mean, our school had like each person had a unique password and ID for their Wi-Fi, so at least that was that. I don't know.
I had a twice-a-week internship at a middle school where I worked under the senior IT guy at my senior year of high school. That was fun.
Yeah. I mean, it paid minimum wage, so it's like, yeah. I'll stay in school for another hour to get paid. I'll take it.
Okay, I think cybersecurity being the mess that is a great way for us to end off this first episode
Very
Absolutely.
very
Yes.
secure ending.
of
This-
the Who Reads the Outro podcast.
Yes.
Yes, very
Thank
safe.
you for listening in to us talk.
Ramble.
Listen-
Complain.
to us again next year. I mean, probably sooner than that,
Or later.
or later. After we've had a chance to try some of the games that we've talked about here tonight.
We will reevaluate, re-engineer,
Design.
reconfigure,
Reintegrate.
re-synergize.
Find us on no major podcast platforms.